Where would you like to see the AIDS fight go from here? What do you see down the road, the future?
I think educating people in schools. I think schools, it has a great opportunity to include AIDS in their STD, teen pregnancy, alcohol abuse. I think it needs to be covered with all of the things that teenagers face as growing up. I think we just need to, as I always like to say, like Ryan said, treat it like a disease and not a dirty word. And I think for our teens' safety, I think it's very important to make sure that they get correct educational facts on AIDS.
Do you have any bitter feelings about what happened?
Oh no, the bitterness has to leave. It left a long time ago. It even left probably before we left Kokomo. I mean, because you just have to move on, and you have to, again, realize that you're not going to be able to change everybody's minds or convince everybody. There's still a lot of homophobic people out there that believe that people who get AIDS have done something bad or wrong, or they wouldn't have got the disease. And so, and that's definitely not true, especially as more women and people of color are coming down with AIDS. And so, it's not true. I mean, so you kind of have to move on. You have to try to educate people, but at the same time realize that some people you just can't change.
Is the fight over?
I don't think the fight is over until we have a cure. I think and my hopes that we're working on that cure instead of drugs to sustain people. I mean, that's my kind of fear now, that we're in this complacent mode to where, we got drugs to treat people, so we're not going to try to end the disease. And we already know worldwide that this disease is not going to end. And so I think that the focus needs to be on a cure or prevention. I think prevention is a great attribute that we have to just kind of really understand, that this disease, everyone is at risk for this disease.
Do you remember when you found out Ryan had AIDS?
Oh my gosh, it was in 1984. He had been sick that whole year, and it was just, I kept taking him to the doctor, and they kept saying, well, there's a lot of colds and flu going around. And finally, the 1st of December, he started getting so sick. He had, they put him in the hospital. He had pneumonia in both lungs. They treated him with bacterial pneumonia, and he never got any better. And then finally they sent him to Riley Hospital. And there in emergency room, Dr. Kleiman said that we feel like Ryan has TB cancer, possibly AIDS. Well, I didn't know anything about AIDS. I didn't want him to have cancer, and but they ruled out TB, and they needed to do a biopsy. There was no AIDS test at the time. Of course, AIDS was so new. So they took a 2-inch biopsy, which was really hard because Ryan was a hemophiliac, and I kind of didn't want him to go in surgery. I didn't think he was, healthy enough. He came out beautifully. I mean, they sent the results to Denver, Colorado. And there the results came back that he had pneumocystis, which meant he had AIDS. And, I thought, well, how could Ryan have AIDS? They said, well, we think this is going to be one of the first. And, of course, we know in 1985 they brought in all hemophiliacs to clinics and found out that 80% of them was all HIV infected. So it was just the tip of the iceberg.
What do you remember about his last day?
Oh, gosh. I don't remember a lot. I don't know whether I tried to block it out. I don't know whether, I don't think I ever realized how serious it was. He'd been sick before, and he'd always come out of it. Even my daughter said the same thing. She goes, Mom, I had no idea he was really that bad, because he'd always come through. And I knew he was sick, but they said they wanted to put him in a coma so the drugs could work. They felt like that slow his body down, and then the drugs could work better. And then Elton comes to the hospital, and I'm like, is this real serious? And then you just like, no, I'm not going to go there, I mean, I don't know. I think I was probably in a little bit of denial there that he was as bad.
20 years later, what do you want people to take away from all of this?
I think just that he put a face to a disease called AIDS that people could understand, and people could stop their discrimination, which is what the museum is all about. I mean, stopping discrimination. And just, I think making people aware of the disease, that this can affect everybody and anybody. and how important education was, because I know Ryan liked talking to young people because he said they listen. He said adults don't think this is their problem, but us teenagers, we know we're the most likely to experiment with sex, drugs, and sexuality. And he said, so parents need to wise up, he said, that this disease is going to affect our teenagers.